Riff Raff, live. The greatest song there was, is, and will ever be in the history of the universe. Now you just saw a little clip of the road footage, and in the background is Riff Raff by AC/DC. I really can't play a lot of it because I don't want to get copyright struck, but it's live from the Apollo Theater, and I'm going to tell you, the greatest song in the history of the universe, the greatest song there was, is, and will ever be, until the sweet meteor of death comes and ends all this humanity nonsense, is this version of Riff Raff. It is on the If You Want Blood, You Got It live album, which I think I have a pic of the album cover, and if I do, I'll pip it in right here. This is the album you want to buy. This is the greatest live album that I have heard. Now, y'all know I'm 63, and y'all are my vintage. Frampton Comes Alive. God Almighty, I played it to death. But when this came out, I went to Berkeley because I had to track this down. It was not in wide release. I don't think it's ever been in wide release. I had to track this down. I went to Berkeley. I got it. I brought it home. My dad always had high-end stereos, and at the time, the stereo we had in the house was incredibly loud. He had speakers that were custom built by my uncle, who was in the industry, and you could hardly pick up the drivers. They were so damn heavy. I brought this album home. My parents hadn't gotten home yet. They were my mom had gone back to work way by now. I think I was almost a senior in high school or right afterwards. I put this on. This is the first song. I'm going to link to the video in the descript. I had this on 11, just like in Spinal Tap. And when this riff started, the crowd came up, the riff. You hear in my voice, I'm getting teary-eyed about this. This is the greatest fucking song in the world. This video, and I implore you to watch it, is absolutely Bon Scott and the boys at their pinnacle. I will never besmirch Brian Johnson in any way. He had a really tough job stepping in for Bon after Bon's stupidity, and he died. He choked on his own vomit in a drunken, passed out stupor. You goddamn fucking idiot. But Bon Scott, to me, is the greatest frontman ever. I will say the other two frontmen that I absolutely stand by are Sammy Hagar and Dave Minichetti of Y&T. And I will also say, I just recently posted this on Facebook, that Brian Setzer remains the consummate entertainer of our era. Now that said, this is the greatest song ever. Was, is, and will ever be the absolute pinnacle of AC/DC with Bon Scott. They were poised to be, this was their breakout. They were going to break out right here. And, well, lives were altered. So I want to point this out right here. I can't do it while the song's playing again because I don't want to get copyright struck. But here you go. Oddly enough, on my Spotify, the very next song is Not Fade Away, covered by the Rolling Stones. And there can be a lot of discussion about cover songs and what cover songs are better or not as good as the originals. And I'm going to tell you, I am a big Buddy Holly guy. My, at the time, dad, who, well, way to pick him, Joe, and I drove to Texas God, I was still living in San Lorenzo. I think I had 2 weeks off. We drove to, we drove to Lubbock, but we also drove to Clovis. And in a long story short, we met a guy who hooked us up with Violet Petty, Norman Petty's wife. You look on the songwriting credits of a lot of Buddy's earlier works, and it's Holly/Petty, because the deal was that Buddy and the band would not pay for studio time, but Norman would have his name on the songwriting credits, and the gamble was that Norman would get paid back in spades if the songs that he had co-writing credits on took off, and in a sense it did with Buddy Holly. Now I'm going to say I'm fairly sure that, now this also caused a big rift and yada yada, but and you notice in the Buddy Holly story there's no mention of the Pettys, so remember this. Norman Petty also had Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs with Sugar Shack. It was the same type of deal. Anyway, we also had Violet Petty played the Celeste, which is a small piano-like instrument. I don't have any of this videotape anymore. It all was lost. But in the song Every Day, you hear it in the background, and she told the story. She was really irritated at Buddy and the boys, so she played that with a little bit more vigor, but she played the Celeste part of Every Day right in front of us. One of the shining, most stellar moments of my entire life. Anyway, as I endlessly digress because of the ADHD, as much as I love Not Fade Away by Buddy Holly, I have got to say that the Rolling Stones cover, this one with Mick Jones that I just had the clip of, and in one of the 90210 opening years, the opening show of the season was at the Rolling Stones concert somewhere in Los Angeles, the Rose Bowl or God knows where, I don't remember. But the Stones opened up with this song one year, and I gotta say, they rock. They rocked this song. They rocked this song in the 60s, and they rocked it when they toured with it on the 90210 opening. I gotta say, I gotta also say, the Some Girls tour with the Stones was one of the 3 greatest shows I've ever seen live. The first time I saw AC/DC at the Day on the Green, where they mopped the fucking floor they mopped up Van Halen, who did put on a good show. They mopped up Aerosmith, and Foreigner, of all people, you think, well, who the hell is Foreigner now? But in 1978, Foreigner was an absolute top-of-the-world band, and God love Bon and Angus and Malcolm and Phil. They got out there and they swept the floor with these people. And that's when I really realized that they're the greatest band ever. But I got to point this out. So we're still cruising. I'll have a closing shot somewhere down the line. We'll see what's next.